going to take a look at Etude number 23 from this year's Arkansas All-State Etudes. This etude is in a legato style with a lot of slurs, so it's important that we find a lot of connection between the notes. One of my favorite apps to use is called Tonal Energy. Some of you probably have used this app before. I like to use the Analysis tab, so if you open the app and go to the bottom and find the little tab that says Analysis and click on that, and you take a look, it'll show you a waveform of what you're hearing. And this is really helpful for playing in a legato style because you want to see a big rectangle in the Analysis tab when you play. So if you have access to that app, you have a smartphone, I strongly suggest turning on that tab and taking a look while you play along so that you can see how well you're connecting your notes. This is excellent for people of all experience levels. I practice this way myself frequently, and I find it really helpful. If you notice that you tend to get a little break when you cross the break, and that there's a little bit of a dip in the waveform, a good way to practice keeping your air going over the break is actually to practice on one foot. People who've taken a lesson with me before know that I'm a big fan of playing on one foot. I like it because it helps to engage the core, because if you let your core kind of, then you're going to completely fall over, which we don't want. So if you stand on one foot, I'm just going to take a look in measure 2. I'm going to play you measure 2 on one foot so you can sort of hear what that sounds like. So hopefully that sounded pretty smooth in the recording. That's a good way to practice. If for some reason you can't stand on one foot or you don't feel safe doing that, you can practice in a chair and lift your feet up off the floor, and that'll also engage your core. One of the most common questions that I get about this etude is, how do I count the 30-second notes? So there are a lot of 30-second notes in this etude, and my experience is that almost everyone, even if you feel confident in your ability to count them, most of us tend to either rush or drag when we get to those 30-second notes. So it's really good to be able to make sure you can count it out loud, and that's the way I practice this etude too, so I recommend it for everyone. If we take a look, let's just dive right into it. Measure 15 is the measure that I hear the most complaints about in this etude. Let's go ahead and count that measure together. And the way I like to count 30-second notes is by using the word watermelon. So I just say watermelon, watermelon. And that's how I count 30-second notes. You can count them however you like. That's just what works for me. So if we take a look in measure 15, let's go ahead and cut the tie in that measure like we did in etude number 14. And let's count that measure together. Ready? Go. 1, watermelon, 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 3, E, watermelon, 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 1. So it's a great way to practice, even if you feel comfortable with the rhythms already and feel pretty confident with them. It's always a good idea to just make sure that you can count through them to ensure that your rhythm is super solid when you go in for your audition. Happy practicing, and good luck on your audition.